So we talked a little bit in the beginning. You were talking about consolidation as one of the things that's been trending in the last 10 years or last decade.
Yeah.
You were part of a consolidation.
Yes.
What did you see that came out of that was a positive through consolidation?
Yeah, that's a great question. We were, in my opinion, a great boutique Northwest firm. We did have a national customer that was probably 30% of our business as well. But I viewed us as just a real nice boutique firm. And when we sold, we were 135 employees, had a real strong business. We were doubling every 5 years. And I think for us, what we discovered, kind of back to this whole idea of consolidation, that in our space, I'm trying to get too much in the weeds, but in our space, larger brokerage business had consolidated already. So it was the top kind of 3 wholesalers. Certainly there was a lot of independent wholesalers out there. There still are, not as many as there used to be. But in the brokerage space, all the business, a lot of it is now in basically 3 of the top, national firms, our company being one of them. And in the binding space, so kind of the smaller commercial and then what I call light brokerage, so which in personal lines describes kind of what we were. That is starting to consolidate. That has been sort of distributed and continues to be across many independents, but now the big nationals are consolidating that business too. And so for us, as we saw the risk of our customers getting gobbled up so on the retail side, by a national firm, that was happening. That was a risk to us because now maybe they get purchased by maybe one of our best customers. This happens and has happened. Gets purchased by a national firm that Griffin, that's our old company, was not part of the preferred list. Mm-hmm. So maybe the national firm is dealing with these big 3 that I'm talking about, or 2 of the 3, or whatever it is. We weren't on the list, so now we almost can't even get in the door. Unless it's a niche product that national firm didn't have, like our tank program that we had, we'd still write that, or we write a ton of earthquakes, so maybe we'd still write the earthquake for that shop. That was kind of the exception, but we're not now on the list to write the other business that we write. So now we're losing that to others. So that consolidation was happening. We felt like it was actually riskier for us not sell and then to remain independent. So, I think that's a piece of it. Maybe it's mitigating the risk of that so that we can continue to grow. And then I think the other piece of it being part of a larger national, and I think we picked a really good one. Now we have access to a lot more market, more capability. There's some really cool things that we were trying to do, in an online rating platform, for instance. Our goal, we had built one for personal lines umbrella, personal lines quake. We wanted to do one for commercial business. We used to have one for contractors. It was difficult to maintain, but we wanted to create, sort of our goal. This, I think we punched above our weight when it came to this, honestly, for a small firm. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to create, hey, agent, here's a platform. You can punch in whatever the information for this risk, and it's going to return 4 quotes. That was a goal of ours. It would have taken us, 10 years to do it. We get purchased by RT, boom, they have it.
Yeah.
So it's just a much bigger organization, a lot more capability. And then back to that consolidation piece on the retail side. Now, we weren't on that preferred list as Griffin. Now as RT, we are. So we can pretty much get into any shop that we want to get into. And then it just becomes the relationship game. Like, we remove the barrier of you're not part of that big brand, that big company that's the preferred wholesaler. Now we are. So those are the things I'd say are the biggest benefits as for the company. And then just for employees, I think, we have some employees that are already doing significantly better because of some of the things we talked about from a financial standpoint for themselves and their teams. And that's pretty fun to see, actually. So,
do you think that the consolidation is going to slow down, or do you think it's pretty much going to Continue where it's at, or you think you see it ramping up where you see more and more consolidations?
I mean, you look at any industry. I'm sure you have commercial customers that have been gobbled up, and maybe they're an HVAC contractor, or maybe name any industry, right? There's a lot less of the independent, what drugstores, sporting goods stores, like whatever, name any industry, they're all getting gobbled up or pushed out because of the consolidation of these big companies. And it's kind of sad. I mean, I grew up in a small town, and it is a little sad to see it, and like all these businesses going out and replaced by these big national brands. That's kind of what's happening in insurance. I don't see it slowing down. I think there will be moments where it's heavier and then it slows down. Like I'd say this last period, maybe it slowed a little bit because of the cost of money, et cetera. So some of the metrics around getting these deals done make it a little bit harder, but I don't see it slowing down because there's kind of a race to get as big as you can, as fast as you can. And there's this race towards efficiency and all these things and grabbing market share. And so I don't see it changing. I do think it still doesn't mean that someone that wants to go do it differently, does it mean they can't do it? No, I think there's still a space for that. I think it is maybe a little more challenging, but I think someone can carve out their niche, whether it's because of the community they're in or the thing they're going after, the line of business, et cetera, or the way they do it. I think there's plenty of folks that can go out and make it work. And I'm specifically talking about the retail side. And I would say maybe on the wholesale side you could do it. I think it becomes really a lot more challenging. But from a customer-facing retail side, I still think someone can make it.
Yeah, I think they can for sure. I do think there's a challenge to that. I was just thinking while you were talking, in our county that I can think of off the top of my head, there's been 6 retailers, and some of them were large retail shops, which would be like an independent brokerage that has been bought up by a national brokerage in consolidation. And like 3 of them were huge, had been in the community for 100 years as an independent broker. I know the ones you're
talking about, yeah. And I thought they would never sell, right?
Right. They tried to recruit me, and now I was like, boy, I'm glad I didn't, because I would have just ended up out of a job or in a weird situation. But I understand why, right? Because some of the things you're talking about on a wholesale level, systems, a retailer, a smaller, or even a large one in your community is small in comparison to the national ones, right? So they go, hey, we get better systems immediately than what we can afford to buy on our own. We're getting appointments with companies that we didn't have appointments with. So now we can write business that we were not able to write before. And then, a succession planning issue of like, hey, the principal wants to retire, and he goes, I can get twice as much money if I sell it to a national brokerage than if I try to sell it to somebody local. And it's more guaranteed. Like, I'm not worried about, do they actually have the money? Right. I know I'm good for it. They're good for it. So like, I understand like all those processes. It is kind of sad, to your point, right? I was thinking about it, drugstores in our community here. I think there's one locally owned drugstore. And they've been successful in planning a succession to another, like an independent. The guy's retiring and he's selling it off, and it's kind of cool to see that. But it's very rare.
Very rare. And I think you said it. You have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're gonna sell. I mean, that is the plan. And I think a lot of, for whatever reason, there's a bunch of different reasons probably, but a lot of these agency principals haven't planned. And if you haven't, then to your point, it's like, man, I'd love to sell it to you, Bob and Sue, but man, you can't guarantee me what these guys are guaranteeing me. You can't pay me what these guys are paying me over here. And I'm sorry, but I have to do this.
Right. I'm going to do, at the end of the day, they're going to do what's best for them and their family. And so, yeah, it is the lack of planning, I suppose, is a plan. It's a plan to sell. And there's positives to it, right? Like, cause it does give, like those customers in that space. We had an agent retire that we took over their book of business for them. and we brought in new opportunities, right? So in some aspects, like, hey, they got consolidated into our agency, but now those customers have markets that they didn't have access to before. We have service levels that are higher than what the prior service levels were. So I think it's been an overall very positive impact to the customer base that was acquired by our agency. So I think there's a lot of positives. I think there's some drawbacks. There's some frustrations that I get, right? Like customers go, well, now we don't have that same personal relationship with you that we had with the local owner, right? So it can be more difficult. And like, although you guys are doing a great job, you're here having a podcast with me, but like sometimes you can go, hey, like I don't have. Whereas it was a small wholesaler, I could call and I could talk to the people in charge. And now that it's a larger wholesaler, I'm like, I don't know who's in charge. I don't know who to call when I have a problem.
I actually am glad you brought that up, because I do think with acquisitions, even though there is a stat, like this whole like mergers and acquisitions. And I don't know where they come up with a successful versus not successful, but they say that it's like 80% of them fail or whatever. I don't know where that comes from, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
And that's like a general business, not insurance, but just generally. I don't know where that stat comes from, but what I just thinking about our experience going through it, and even you and I, just being transparent, had talked a little bit about this on the phone when we first chatted. It's a transition. You're talking about, trying to take what was and bring it into this bigger entity. And luckily, I think culturally speaking, it took a minute even for our employees to realize that actually all these new people we work with, they're a lot like you, because over time, RT has acquired a lot of us, if that makes sense. But there is this transition, whether it's systems, even though, maybe arguably the systems are better in some ways, in other ways, maybe they're not. And sometimes that's because it's new. Right. Sometimes it's because the data you get is a little slightly different. So it takes a minute to get everything into this new place where now, I'm not thinking about, well, that used to be that way or this or that. And then same with the customers, the experience is different, right? So I've talked to a lot of agents, and unfortunately for me in the role I'm in, by the time they get to me, a lot of times it is because there's some issue.
They're already mad.
They're a little bit upset, right? So that's my claims days comes back in, right? But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're still the same group, right? We have more capabilities, more to offer, but it doesn't mean there wasn't some sort of a transitional pain there, or some confusion, or or this perception of now they're RT and I can't get a hold of anybody. We're still the same people, So it takes a minute to get through all that, and I think, I'd be lying if I said it was like completely smooth the last 2 years and 8 months and 12 days.
Not keeping track.
It wasn't completely smooth, but I do think we are in a better place. And I think the future of what we will be in 5 years now is brighter than and it was good. What it would have been if we hadn't have sold. So I guess my point, just this idea that there's going to be some transition and whatnot in these consolidations, but ultimately, if you have good people and you make it through it.
Yeah, I agree. It comes down to the core of the people. Is it Marcus Lemonis? I think is had a TV show.
Yeah,
and it was like people, processes, and products.
Yeah.
Right, and the foundation is always the people, because he would go into struggling businesses. And he'd be like, okay, let's turn this around. And how can we take a business that's on the verge of going out of business and make it a successful business?
Yeah.
And that's really the foundation, is what are the people that you have in place? Because if you have good people, you can overcome product and processes. But if you don't have good people, even if you have great products and processes, you're going to be struggling.
100%. I didn't know that's where that came from, because I actually use that. And we kind of do an annual planning thing, which this last couple of years has been more about the transition. But one of the things I have this diagram of this tabletop, and it's the three legs are those, and then the tabletop is production or growth. And so if you don't have those three things, to your point, you're not going to have a great business.
Right. You can't be. It's The Prophet. That's the name of the TV show that he did.
Know that's where that came from. That's funny.
Yeah. It's really important, and I think we get super focused on one, right? Like people will get super focused because people matter. But if you only focus on the people that you have, and you can have awesome people, but if you don't ever address your product and process, then those people sooner or later, good people will leave.
They'll get frustrated,
right? Because they're going to go, "Hey, you're offering a subpar product and a process that is painful to me, and you're not listening. So I'm going to go someplace else, and you will lose good people." If you only focus on your product and your process and people are bad, it doesn't matter how great your product is.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to experience it because they can't stand to deal with the process and the people. I know there's like that saying, like you can have something good, you can have something fast, or you can have something cheap. Pick two, right? But I think when it comes to people, product, and process, I think you have to have all three.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree.
You have to have them all running. So